At 5 minutes to 9 on March 3, 1943, 12 American B-25 sat, running on Port Moresby dispersal, with no bombardiers aboard. They were about to sink an entire Japanese convoy. That should not make sense. A medium bomber without a bombardier cannot hit a moving ship. Everyone in 1942 knew that. Bombing from 12,000 feet hit nothing. Skip bombing at 50 feet was supposed to kill the crew that tried it. The Army Air Force's manual said so. The men on those 12 aircraft had spent 2 months rebuilding their own noses by hand to prove the manual wrong. Go back to that morning. Picture the field. Heat already rising. 12 aircraft, 24 engines turning. No glass in the nose. Steel plate instead. You're about to watch what happens when a workshop fix becomes doctrine in 15 minutes. Take this one case. On midnight February 28th, a convoy left Rabaul. 8 transports, 8 destroyers, 6,900 soldiers of the 51st Division badged for Ley, plus fuel, plus ammunition. The plan was simple. Hold Ley. The Japanese High Command had lost Guadalcanal 2 weeks earlier. New Guinea was next. If Ley fell, Port Moresby was next. If Port Moresby fell, Australia was exposed. The man responsible for getting those ships through was a destroyer admiral who had spent his career running escorts, Masatomi Kimura. He flew his flag from Shirayuki. He chose a route that hugged the north coast of New Britain under bad weather. He had air cover promised from Rabaul and Ley. He thought that was enough. Allied air power had never stopped a convoy at sea. High-level bombs missed. Torpedo bombers got shot down. His ships were combat-loaded. That means crates on deck. Troops sleeping beside ammunition. You can picture it. 8 grey transports low in the water. 4 destroyers ahead, 4 behind. White wakes cutting the Bismarck Sea. For 2 days clouds hid them. A B-24 found them on March 1st off Cape Gloucester. A B-17 found them again on March 2nd. They hit nothing. That is normal. From 10,000 feet a ship is a speck. On the night of March 2nd, Kimura turned his ship southwest into Vitiaz Strait. He was less than 100 miles from Ley. He was almost there. At Port Moresby, a different kind of aircraft was waiting. The 5th Air Force that February had a problem you can measure. They had tried to bomb those ships the way the book said. Put a B-17 at 20,000 feet. Put a Norden bomb sight in the nose. Fly straight. Drop. The numbers were useless. In the Southwest Pacific in 1942, less than 1% of bombs dropped from medium altitude hit a maneuvering ship. 1%. That means 99 bombs feed the fish for every one that hits. General George Kenney knew it. He had arrived in July 1942 to command the 5th. He found tired crews. Old aircraft. Number spares. He told his staff to stop flying the way the school taught. Fly low. Fly fast. The first man who tried to make it work was a squadron commander who had been a good bomber pilot and a stubborn experimenter, William Benn. Benn commanded the 63rd Squadron. He took a B-17 named with chalk marks on the harbour wall. There was a rusted hulk outside Port Moresby, the wreck of the Pruth or a freighter everyone used for practice. He flew at 200 feet. That is about as high as a church steeple. He flew at 250 miles an hour. That is as fast as a modern car on a freeway at full throttle. He released a practice bomb with a 5-second delay fuse. The bomb skipped. Like a stone on a pond. It skipped 3 times. Then it slammed into the side of the hulk. Ben did it again. And again. He got direct hits. Kenney watched. He ordered every squadron to learn it. There is a word they used. Mast-head height. That means you are so low the ship's mast looks down on you. That is where the bomb cannot miss, because the ship fills your windscreen. The risk is obvious. At that height, every machine gun on the ship can hit you. Ben was killed on January 18, 1943, flying a low pass in bad weather. He proved the idea worked before he died. The question left was who would do it when the target shot back. Put those 2 pictures side by side. You have a tactic that needs an aircraft flying at 50 feet into a wall of fire. And you have a bomber built to fly at 20,000 feet with a glass nose for a bombardier. Those are opposite aircraft. The man who fixed that worked in a hangar in Townsville. He was not a designer. He was a depot engineer who had flown for the Navy and stayed when the Philippines fell, Pappy Gunn. Gunn ran the 81st Depot Repair Squadron at Garbutt Field. With him worked a North American representative named Jack Fox. In late 1942, they took a B-25C. That is a Mitchell. Twin engines. A glass nose that looked like a greenhouse. They cut it off. They threw away the Norden bomb sight. That saved weight the way cutting your hair saves weight. Ridiculous and necessary. They bolted on a steel plate. Behind that plate they mounted 4.50 caliber Browning machine guns, where the bombardier used to kneel. Then they added 4 more in blister pods on the sides of the nose below the cockpit windows. 8 guns, all fixed, all pointing forward, all fired by the pilot with a button on his control wheel. The entire aircraft became the sights. Point the nose. Press. In later aircraft they added 6 more guns, but on March 3rd it was 8. Think what that means at low level. A .50 caliber Browning fires about 800 rounds a minute. 8 guns fire about 6,400 rounds a minute. That is more than 100 rounds a second. In a 15-second pass, that is 1,600 rounds. 1,600 steel slugs, each 2 inches long, weighing almost 2 ounces. Enough metal to fill a bathtub. They did it to a dozen B-25s, 12 aircraft. They called them commerce destroyers. The name was optimism. No one with rank believed it yet. For a while, the easy answer looked right. Put enough bombers in the sky and something will sink. That is what most histories said before the files were opened. And on March 2nd, that is what happened. 19 B-17s went after Kimura. So did a handful of B-25s and A-20s. From medium altitude, 6,000 feet, 8,000 feet. They claimed hits. They hit almost nothing. One transport, the Kyokusei Maru, sank after a bomb set it on fire. But most sticks fell wide. Water spouts, smoke. That is the wrong answer. You hear it even now. The Battle of the Bismarck Sea was won because the Allies had air superiority in many aircraft. That is true, and it explains almost nothing. Air superiority does not make a bomb hit. The Japanese had about 100 fighters over the convoy. Zeros from Rabaul. They had anti-aircraft guns on 8 destroyers. They had put troops on every deck with rifles ready. So why would anyone think 12 modified medium bombers at 0 feet would do better than heavy bombers at 12,000 feet? Any officer in 1942 would say that is murder. Low level against destroyers is suicide, they said. The guns track too fast. The sea leaves no room to miss. The colonel who signed the modification, Kenney himself, had to overrule his own staff to allow it. The squadron that would do it, the 90th of the 3rd Attack Group, had mixed crews. Americans and Australians flying together because there were not enough bodies to fill a crew. Major Ed Larner commanded it. He had been told to learn skip bombing and to keep his men alive while learning. They practiced on that hulk at Port Moresby between missions to Boona. They lost altitude until the prop wash made circles on the water. They learned to aim by putting the ship on the nose and holding it. You would be wrong to think this was confidence. It was arithmetic. From the deck to masthead you cannot miss wide. You can only hit or fly into the ship. So they chose to hit. Now take it away. On the morning of March 3rd, the wrong answer died. At about 6:30, a B-24 saw Kimura again east of Cape Ward Hunt. The convoy had made the turn. Now it was in the Huon Gulf, heading for Lae. That put it in range of Port Moresby in 2 hours. At about 8 o'clock, Kenney's headquarters sent the word. At 5 to 9, Larner got it on the dispersal at Durand Field at Port Moresby. He did not wait for a briefing room. He shouted the rendezvous point and time to the crews standing around. Cape Ward Hunt, 9:30. Then he ran. 12 B-25, C-1 started engines. Each carried 3 or 4 500-pound bombs. A 500-pound bomb weighs as much as a large motorcycle, about 227 kilograms. Each bomb had a 5-second delay fuse. That is the secret. A normal fuse blows on contact. At 50 feet, that blows you up too. A delay lets the bomb punch through the side, skip, or bury before it detonates. Behind Larner came other groups. 13 Beaufighters of No. 30 Squadron RAAF, 13 B-17s, 12 A-20s, 25 P-38s and small flights of P-40s and other fighters to cover. More than 90 aircraft total. They did not arrive together by accident. The plan was 3 stages. That is the mechanism. First, the B-117s at medium level to break up the formation and force ships to maneuver alone. Second, the Beaufighters at deck height to kill the anti-aircraft crews. Third, the commerce destroyers to make the kill at masthead with skip bombs. You can object here. You can say that sounds too neat for combat, and you would be right. War is not neat. But that day the neat plan worked because the low step could not be stopped once the guns were dead. Go there. 10 o'clock. Huon Gulf, about 40 miles northwest of Boona. First pass, 13 B-117s from about 7,000 feet. Bombs. Near misses. The ships scatter. They are no longer a box. They are single targets making white turns. Now the second pass. That is where the film should slow down. 13 bow fighters came in low from ahead in line abreast. The Japanese thought they were Beaufort torpedo bombers. Standard defense against torpedoes is to turn bow on. That makes the ship a smaller target. Kimura's destroyers turned bow on. That exposed the transports behind. The bow fighters ignored the destroyers. They slid past and hit the transports lengthwise. 4 20mm cannons in the nose, 6.303 machine guns in the wings. Take one bow fighter. That is 10 guns firing forward. 13 aircraft is 130 guns. The official RAAF release said enemy crews were slain beside their guns. Deck cargo burst into flame. Superstructures toppled and burned. A B-25 co-pilot who watched, Garrett Middlebrook, said they went in and hit the troop ship so low the deck stayed hit. You can picture it. A soldier on a transport sees a twin-tail aircraft at mast height not 30 feet up, windows filled, and then the deck erupts. Men cut down, guns silent, rope and canvas on fire. Now the guns are dead. Larner arrived in that moment. 12 commerce destroyers peeled off one by one. Each pilot aimed the whole aircraft. Each pressed the button. 100 rounds a second hammered the bridge in the gun positions ahead of the bomb. Then the bomb released at about 250 feet. It skipped once. It hit the side at the waterline and rode into the hull. 5 seconds. Detonation inside. A column of water and steel. Larner's 12 aircraft dropped 37 500-pound bombs. 17 hit. The A-20s behind dropped 20 bombs and hit 11. By 10:30, the sea was burning. Add it up. 3 March was one airstrike lasting about 15 minutes. In those 15 minutes, the convoy ceased to exist. By the evening, 6 transports were on the bottom. By the next morning, all 8 transports were gone. That is Kyokusei Maru, Teiyo Maru, Aiyo Maru, Shinai Maru, Taimei Maru, Oigawa Maru, Kembu Maru, and the special service ship Nojima. 4 destroyers were gone too. Shirayuki, Arashio, Asashio, Tokitsukaze. 4 more destroyers were damaged and limping. The numbers that matter are the men. About 6,900 soldiers started. About 1,200 reached Lae. About 2,700 were picked up by destroyers and submarines and returned to Rabaul. About 2,890 were dead on ships, in the water, or on rafts. A destroyer that day was a rescue ship by night. Kimura was on Shirayuki when a bomb burst near the bridge and bullets from a strafing run hit his shoulder and stomach. His ship sank 55 nautical miles southeast of Finchhafen. That is about 102 kilometers. He was pulled from the water by Shikinami. General Hatazo Adachi, who commanded the 18th Army, was on Tokitsukaze and was rescued. Lieutenant General Hidemitsu Nakano, who commanded the 51st Division, was on Yukikaze and survived. Put that against American and Australian losses. 13 men killed, 2 bombers destroyed, 4 fighters destroyed, at least 25 Japanese fighters shot down. You would be rude to ask why this was not done before. The answer is in the workshop. The aircraft did not exist before November 1942. The tactic did not exist before Ben made it repeatable in September. On March 3rd, both existed at the same place at the same time because Port Moresby put them together. That is luck plus policy. Kenney made policy to let the luck happen. Slow it. Picture the water at 4 o'clock. Smoke low. Oil rainbow on swell. Life rafts. A hatch cover with hands hanging over. A transport rolled 90 degrees showing red bottom paint. There is no engine noise now. There is the sound water makes against steel. For 2 nights the survivors were in the sea. Japanese destroyers came back. Submarines surfaced. They pulled men aboard. Allied aircraft came back too. Bowfighters and B-25s and PT boats. They strafed rafts and boats and men in the water. The official justification was printed. Rescued soldiers would be landed at Lae and fight again. Also retaliation. 3 days earlier, Japanese fighters had shot at American parachutes from a B-17 that had been crippled. 5 Zeros dove on the hanging crews. 3 P-38 pilots saw it and shot 5 of them down. That does not make this easier to picture. It makes it harder. You can hold 2 truths at once. The first truth is that a rescue ship is a military target when the island combat is 30 miles away. The second truth is that a man in the water cannot shoot. The Australians and Americans on March 4th and 5 chose the first truth and fired. The Japanese had made the same choice. If you look at the gun camera, you see white lines on blue, and then a raft disappears under spray. Do not look away too fast. The Bismarck Sea was not clean. No battle in that war in the Southwest Pacific was clean. The low aircraft that made it efficient also made it intimate. At 50 feet you see faces. Garrett Middlebrook said later, after they added 8 guns to the nose, every firing pass was awesome and absolutely unreal. He had watched decks cleared. He knew what awesome cost. Go stand there. You would feel what they felt, that they had invented a way to hit and did not have a way not to see. This is where you should say the skeptic was right about something. And he was. The strafer did not win alone. Take the ledger honestly. Without the 13 B-17s that scattered the convoy, the bow fighters would have had a tight box to break. Without the bow fighters that killed the gun crews, Larner's 12 would have flown into intact anti-aircraft fire and died. Without the P-38s that fought the Zeros off, the bombers would have been bounced from above. The Japanese had at least 100 fighters. They shot down 2 bombers and 4 fighters. They could have shot more, but American top cover held. Also true, the Japanese made mistakes that made the kill larger. They sailed at 10 knots. That is about 11 miles an hour. A man on a bicycle can do that. They combat loaded the transports with ammunition on deck that burned. They believed air power could not stop them. Kimura sailed under weather that cleared on March 3rd and left his ships in clear air. He was brave and wrong. Also true, the parachute delay fuse was not reliable. Some bombs that skipped did not detonate. Some that hit bounced over. The 17 hits from 37 drops is about 46%. That is incredible compared to 1%. That is also less than half. War is still waste. The skeptic who said low level would be expensive was not foolish. At Rabaul in November 1943, the same tactics would cost aircraft because the harbor had too many guns. The difference on March 3rd was that the guns were killed first. That is the concession. The workshop fix was not magic. It was 1 tool in a 3-tool job. Put the 3 tools together in order and the arithmetic flips. Take one away and you are back to waterspouts and memorial services. There is new material after the water stopped burning. Within weeks, the depot at Townsville stopped being a depot. It became a factory. Garbutt Field turned every B-25 it could into strafer geometry. 8 guns in the nose, 60-day turnaround. North American looked at the hand-built plate and drew it in ink. By late 1943, the B25 G&H came from the factory with 75mm cannon and then with 14 guns. The idea left the Southwest Pacific and went to every theater because the films went everywhere. The newsreel. The Bismarck convoy smashed played in America with Damien Pera's bowfighter footage. Pera had flown on a bowfighter with a hand camera at deck height. He filmed tracers sawing a transport. People saw what masthead looked like. MacArthur's headquarters printed the lesson. No more convoys to Leh by sea. The Japanese after March 1943 never tried to reinforce Leh with transports again. They tried barges at night. They tried submarines. They tried marching through the Owen Stanley Range. All 3 were slow. All 3 left the garrison hungry. When the Australians walked into Leh in September 1943, the town was empty enough. The battle also set a template that lasted. In February 1944, 5th Air Force did the same. 3-stage job to Wewak airfields. Parafrags at low level. Strafers before bombers. The Japanese lost more than 100 aircraft on the ground. The method that started with Ben skipping a bomb on a rust hulk near Port Moresby, and with Gunn saying hell we threw the CG away to save weight when Kenney asked about balance, became the normal way. Larner left the theater. He had been the man who shouted a rendezvous to a dispersal and ran. He later wrote that his squadron remained a cocky gang and would not miss. They did not. But the story does not end with a squadron. It ends with the manual being retyped. So picture the last calculation. 8 transports burning is not the end. It is the start of a question about distance and air power that has never gone away. At the start of 1943, a Japanese convoy with 8 destroyers and air cover could not make a 100-mile run from Cape Ward Hunt to Leh by day. Today, a ship that wants to move troops to a beach within range of land-based air has the same problem, only faster. Satellites see the wake. Missiles skip. The guns in the nose are now standoff weapons. The altitude is now thousands of feet, not 50. But the arithmetic is the same. Find the formation, kill the defenses, hit at the waterline, and the sea still does not hide. After March 4th, the Japanese High Command assumed barge traffic would replace transports. They assumed night would replace day. American night bowfighters and PT boats took half of that too. So they marched through jungle and arrived hungry and late. The gap between what you think you can move by sea and what air power lets you move is a real gap. The Bismarck Sea did not invent low attack. It made it unavoidable to ignore. The workshop at Garbutt Field where rivets popped when 8 guns fired at once is now a memory of hangar concrete and photographs. The steel plate that replaced glass is in a museum. The convoy is a field of wrecks on sonar southeast of Finchhafen at 7:15 south 148:30 east. People still dive them. They find helmets in silt. The question left is simple and unsettled. If a handful of hand-built aircraft at 50 feet could close a sea in 15 minutes, what closes it now? And how long would you have to know you were beaten?